Well, hello again. Welcome back. Here we are. I am going to tell you a short story about the beginning of civilizations. In the very beginning, the answers to the questions and queries and doubts about the world and the universe were responded by the mythos in ancient Greek. But not only in Greece, but especially there was a cosmogonia in Greek, and a theogony that gave account and tried to explain the beginning of the world and the forces that ruled the nature. They call the nature the physis. However, those myths were becoming insufficient, and as time went by, reasoning began to appear, and it took over the place of the mythos. These reasoning were called logos. Basically, such reasonings, such logos, were the beginning of the science as we know it today, the proto-science that took over eventually the narration and the stories called myths. I'm pretty sure that you know the meaning of the words I'm going to show you now, but I'm not quite sure that you know where do they come from. For example, words such as geography, chronometer, God, or pandemia. Let me share the screen. There. Sharing this one. There you are. There you are. Here we are. There you can see on the screen geography. It comes from geo or Gia, the god earth, and graphia, which means writings, image, description, picture. The second one, chronometer, comes from the titan of the time, Chronos, and metron, which is an element to take measures. The third one, pandemia, it comes from pan, which means everything, all, and demos, people. Sharing. There was in the ancient Greek world, there was a man called Hesiod. Let me show you the picture of him. This Hesiod is one of the first poets in the Greek world. It is considered by many to be, let's say, a philosopher, the first philosopher in the world. For some others say, no, he wasn't a philosopher, he was a poet. But he wrote two main books. One of them was The Days and the Works, and the second one was the Theogony. There he was born, or he existed in the 700 before Christ approximately. And this Theogony, as he named it, was the origin of the gods. He tries to explain the beginning of the universe and how the genealogy of the gods and how they were born and from who. And bearing in mind that the gods were the life personification of the forces of nature. Each god represented, for example, the wind, the earth, the fire, stars, the sea, and many other forces of the nature. See the picture there, the theogony. You can see that Gaia through Uranus had Aphrodite, and also Kronos through Rhea had Zeus. Zeus through Metis had Athena, and Zeus through Leto had Artemis, and Apollo, this very same Zeus, not other one, through Maya had Hermes, and through Semele had Dionysius. As you can see, polygamy was not an issue in the ancient world, something unthinkable today in our Western nowadays world. But anyhow, then stop sharing. I'm pretty sure now that you are very acquainted with some of theogonies. For example, have you ever watched Dragon Ball or The Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, or even the first Superman back in the 70s? And what are the main characters? Where do they come from, for example? Well, you may have not been aware until now, but these are theogonies at some extent. They are fictional. They were made by the television, but they are theogonies in the end of the day. And why do you think these theogonies that you have watched on the TV are catchy, are appealing? In fact, they are, because they have been watched by millions and millions of people in the world. Why then? I leave you there with this question, and we will try to find an answer in our next video clip. Stay there, don't leave, hang on, we'll be back in a second.